Alright, this one is for Chuan Shin, and it's his new concept art um, for his new concept for character. Okay, so things that I see wrong with it right off the bat. Um, First thing I think right off the bat is that you have some anatomical issues. The first thing is that if you've got your character here with the neck, the head looks okay, good proportions. The face I think is too low. Because if the head is here, I think the eyes should be up here, and I think that's what you should just kind of bring that whole face up a little bit more. But the shoulders are going to come down a little bit more, and then around. And I think that's a big issue. Is the shoulders are just way too big. The next thing too is I know you're bending your arms back and forward like so. Um, but when you do the arms, the joint between the elbow and the top of the shoulder and the bottom of the shoulder should be equidistant. So basically, the forearm is like if you bring your hand up to touch your shoulder, you're basically kind of this is your hand here, and then you've got your forearm, and then you've got your bicep and shoulder. Okay, so but when it comes up, the knuckles are about a little bit longer, a little bit taller. So what you need to do is actually even these out, because right now it looks like the pose itself, she's looking like she's kind of clenching, and it doesn't feel right. And there's, I think, a pose. How do I want to put this? There's you've got a tensed upper body, and then the lower body is just too equal bilateral. So what I would say is I would move the shoulder, um, or the arm down here a little bit more, and then shorten up. Actually, I think that's okay, but I'd shorten up the upper or the forearm here, shorten that up, and then put more knuckle. So you want to have more knuckle showing, so more of the tops of the fist. So this part would show more over here. And I think that is what you want to accomplish in that aspect for your arms. The next thing too is kind of watch on the shoulders and the hips. So if I look at the shoulder down, they're equidistant, and what you should actually do is narrow your shoulders a little bit more, and then the hips make a little bit more sense. The other thing too is get more rib cage value in there. So if I would do the rib cage here, you'd probably get a little bit of a shadow from that, and then it would come down and create like the egg format for the rib cage. So, but the problem with this is then what you want to do is come down, and then the hip has don't make your hips smooth like this. Instead, bring them down as a bump, and that's the first part of the hips. And then there's a little indent right here, and that's basically to give you a little bit more interest in your thighs and stuff like that. The other aspect too is what you want to do is really push your stance a little bit wider. And I think basically, if I'm looking at this, if you're clenching your fists, I would put the knees out here like this. And I think that's going to really push that female figure and then give her a little bit more power in her stance. Um, and if you do it too much, though, the problem is if you do it too much, then to hold the feet down, you have to actually angle the ankles. But if you do it like this, I think you'll be fine. Just extend it out a little bit more, give it a little bit more depth. Um, and you could probably even push one forward and one backwards, just a hair, and bend them a little bit. And I think that's going to give you a much better kind of ratio as far as your character goes. Um, So, you know, if this is just like, if this is a final concept too, you got really of a weird lighting solution. So what I mean by that is you've got your pink up here, which is coming from over here, but it's also coming up from under, and it's also on top, and it's also very strong here. So I think what you want to do is, if you're going to do that bicolor pink, and especially if you're doing a strong bottom light here, then you want to skip this area here. I'm just going to really quickly paint over this. But you want to skip the top portion, and then when it comes to the bottom portion, more on the ribs, more on the bottom of the arm here, less on the upper arm here, and then more on the knuckles and thumb, and I think that's going to push it. The thumbs are a little bit too small too. I push them longer. So I would do that as well. So I think those are the anatomy issues that I would fix right off the bat. And I would say I think the design is okay, but you know, you want to have constant you want to have a constant pattern going on. And I think the problem you have is you've got all this high-end pattern here and here, some here and in the arms, which is good, but that pattern does not carry through anywhere else in the body. So consider pretty much like maybe creating, you know, that pattern here, um, something like that. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but that pattern here like this now changes, and you know, you can actually add in, you know, some interest into the legs, because right now without them they look very flat and very plain, whereas if you have some of that texture going on here, it evens out that character. And this is just me as a personal thing. You know, she's in a suit, which is kind of, you know, high heels, you know, stockings, that type of thing. But it's this really basic character. Some things that you might want to do are add extra interest. Things I would maybe say is to add a, you know, gold ring or a silver ring on her knuckles. Maybe she's got you know, a band on her thumb. Maybe she's got, you know, let's put some jewelry, maybe a pendant, that type of thing. You know, something, you've got her in this sci-fi thing, but give her something to kind of make her a little bit more unique. Um, you know, and that's up to you. I mean, that's your storytelling. So, but I think just something like on one side of the arm, or maybe even, you know, a patch or a banding or something to like make it so it's not so symmetrical. And honestly, you know, I see the line in the forehead right here, which I'll redraw in a different color so you can see. But the line here is right in their forehead, and I just feel that's part of the symmetrical line that you didn't cover up. Um, so you kind of want to really push that aspect, and get get some unified differences in here, where you can actually just go in and create more interest by giving her something a little bit different to look at. So that's something you want to probably take a look at. All right, I hope that helped.